Hey guys, welcome to my channel. You're watching Arc Builders CCMC. I made this channel because I wanted to go over all the topics in my book, Crushing Conceptualism in Modern Christianity. And it's becoming one of those channels that I'm starting to use for book reviews. And I enjoy doing that almost more than I like going over my own material. But the purpose of my material really is to do that. It is basically to turn people on to a lot of the material that I have been reading over the past few years. It's actually a lot of the stuff in my book dates back to like 10 plus years. And so the discussion today is Rephaim, or I think that's how you say it, Rephaim. And not to be confused with the Nephilim. I think from what I've gathered, what I understand, and what I wrote about in my book, these are like a second generation or further down the line, different from the Nephilim. And but like I was saying, the purpose of my book is really to get people to read a lot of the material that I've read. And so this series right now, these episodes about the Nephilim, the fallen angels, really I got a lot of this information from Rob Skiba's books. This was really the game changer for me. I ordered this book. I listened to some type of seminar on YouTube and found out this guy was an author, so I ordered his books. And that really opened the door to this subject. So my book's like just an introduction to these topics. And this kind of is too, what he does, but he's way more in depth about it. So I definitely recommend those books if you're wanting to learn more about the Nephilim and how they have interacted with humanity. And you can even see traces, not just traces, but like major visible signs in our government and things like that. Those are really good books. But that is what got me into learning about this. And I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface, especially in my book. I'm just, introducing people to these things. But one thing that you're going to see in this book or in this episode is that it actually goes back to a book that I read probably 10 years ago. And this is a more mainstream book. It's called Secrets from Beyond the Grave by Perry Stone. A lot of people should know that name, Perry Stone. He's pretty like mainstream. And I read this book probably 10 years ago, and he actually talks about the Rephaim and the dead things and hell, and that book was pretty instrumental in opening my eyes to the different words used for hell, the place called Sheol. And I've come a long way in my understanding of hell now, but that really opened the door to some things. And there's still a lot of mainstream mentality within this book, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. We're talking about the Rephaim today, and I guess I would probably start with something that Steve Quayle said. Steve Quayle is an author that Rob Skiba mentions a lot in his books. And I haven't ordered any books of his, like about the giants or anything. Most of my stuff does come from Rob Skiba, but from what he says, from what I hear, and Steve Quayle's reputation, I've listened to him in interviews. So I have seen him. I did get a book by Steve Quayle talking about the AI and the depopulation agenda. It's called Terminated and Transhumanism. So, which I've actually sourced him in this section. But anyway, without further ado, let me pull this up and we'll take a look at what he said in Terminated when he talked about the Rephaim. He says there are only two places in the Old Testament where the word Nephilim appears. It's first used in Genesis 6 before the flood, and the second is in Numbers 13 after the flood. From that point on, the offspring of the fallen angels are called Rephaim. When the giants were killed, their half-fallen angel and half-fallen human or half-human spirits became demons. Basically, when the Nephilim died, they became demons. They're spirits, the disembodied spirits of the giants. This was detailed in the book of Enoch and in the book of Giants that was found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, so that's a reference to the disembodied spirits. When they die, when we die, whenever anybody dies, their spirit goes somewhere. Humans, our spirits go to Sheol, and it's a waiting place. I wish I would have gotten into this more in Crushing Conceptualism, but the book was becoming way too thick as it is. And if you want to know more about Sheol, I would visit Hanging on His Words, the YouTube channel. He has some really good videos about that. And it's animated too. He has some really good animations to, I guess, keep your interest if you just can't follow. But it's very impressive. He's a really good content creator. He has a gift that I wish I had when I make these videos. I just don't. So I'm doing the best I can with Microsoft Word and StreamYard. So here it is. But the tribe is called the Rephaim. It was recognized. They were recognized as a class of giants who possessed the same genes, the Nephilim genes. They were Nephilim descendants, and some passages in the Bible depict this breed as a tribe that emerged when the earth began to populate after the flood. Okay, this is post-flood. All right. And it's been observed that Rephaim, translated from the Hebrew Rapha, which means, I believe it means just dead things, the dead. Actually, I know that's what it means, but I don't know why I didn't write that in my notes or in the footnotes. Translated from Rapha. It's translated as giants in the English Bibles, okay, in a lot of different places. And even more interesting is that we find places where Rephaim are associated with the dead. Okay, so I do have that in my notes in reference to the departed spirits, and that's where we're getting to in the book of Job here. It says, the dead things, Rephaim, are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. Hell is naked before him, and destruction hath no covering. And that's found in the 26th chapter of Job, verse 5. So, in my late 20s, that's when I read this. I'm 39 now, and I was in my late 20s when I read this. So, I would guess I was 28 or 29. I just can't remember exactly. I saw this at the bookstore. I was, shopping mainstream at the time, and I was around that time. I was getting back into church, as it is defined by mainstream Christianity in church. I'd been out of church for a little while, and my first few years back, I was really just reading the Bible a lot, going to bookstores, trying to find some books that would help me out. But my mind's always went to a lot of different subjects, different topics that, I want to know a lot of the things that normal people don't, normal, I say normal, but that churches don't preach about a lot or teach on. Okay. But, so that were believed by the men in the Bible. And so when I would read stuff like this, it's talking about Sheol, hell, and the grave, secrets from beyond the grave, the afterlife, things like that. It just really captured my attention. And he talks about the lower regions of the earth and the underwater gates to the subterranean netherworld, basically. And when I was writing Crushing Conceptualism, it had been 10 years plus since I read that book. But when I was writing Crushing Conceptualism, my mind just went to what I read in that book when I was going through this section. And so I decided to refresh my memory. I pulled out this book. I remembered it. And when I flipped through the pages, there was a section that was titled Spirits Are Under the Waters. And I was amazed to find that everything that I had been writing about in this section, as far as the Rapha, and including the same passage from Job, it was basically an echo of this section of his book. And I found that interesting because it's like I subconsciously remembered a lot of the stuff as I was writing. I don't know how, but it just kind of lined up with what he was saying. Now, Perry Stone, his focus was unrelated to what I'm talking about. The Nephilim and Rephaim. He was talking more. He was bringing his readers' attention to the same passage, but at the same time, he was talking about. Let me look at my notes real quick, so I can just so that I have. Okay. In that section of his book, Stone, he discusses a scuba expedition of a man named Wingate. Now, who was Wingate? He was a close associate of Jacques Cousteau. And that Perry Stone, he writes that during one dive, the men found under the water what appeared to them to be black basalt stones of an ancient temple, including a perfect marble column. And during another dive, after 20 minutes, the diver came up and told the others that he was not going back down there. And they asked him why. And then the fellow replied, I could hear something groaning under the floor of the sea, and it sounded like it was dragging chains. Now, that's interesting. This is one guy's testimony that was under the waters. It sounded like they were dragging chains. And so it makes me think of Jude. And this is what the passage that Stone he added in his book, where Jude 1:6, it says, And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. And I added these passages. Actually, I added that passage from Jude, as well as the one from 2 Peter, where it talks about the chains of darkness. He's talking about the same events that Enoch describes. And then in the 1 Peter, by which also he went and preached unto the spirits in prison, which sometimes were disobedient, when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by water. So I just thought that was so interesting that that guy's testimony. And, I'm glad I read this book back then, even though there's probably a whole lot. I can't remember what he teaches about, like eternal torment and flaming hell, the Catholic version of hell that most Christians teach today, that God is going to make you suffer if you turn against him. He will do that for eternity. That's another study in itself. Anyway, Yeah, I added those passages from 1st and 2nd Peter because they basically echo what Jude was talking about, adding a few more details. Yeah, these writers, Peter and Jude, they were not just vaguely mentioning a fish story that they heard from their grandfathers. Okay, it was more than just a fable. All right, and most Christians today gloss right over it. This event was part of their upbringing, and it was part of their religious background as far as the information and the texts that they would read. I shouldn't say religious background, I guess. I mean, kind of. It was their heritage, basically. It shaped their minds enough to include that comparison in their letters, okay? So it was important. And I've heard a lot of debate about Paul's reference to judging the angels in his letter to, and I can't remember if it's 1st or 2nd Corinthians, but he says, "Know ye not that we shall judge angels?" Okay, simple phrase that a lot of people would jump to. 44. Okay, 1 Corinthians 6, verse 3. But I was never able to make any determinations about that passage until I began piecing together the events of the antediluvian world and, the pre-flood world and what we're talking about here. Not just in the passages that I read, but in like the books of Enoch and the other texts that we've been talking about. There's a lot of there's like emphasis. They're emphatic about this subject, this place of judgment. And let's see if I got another text here. Okay. I'll pull this up. I meant to underline some of the parts that I was going to emphasize. Evil spirits. Okay, I was going to underline this. And then they shall. Okay. And this is taken from Enoch chapter 15, verses 8 through 12. It says, "And now the giants who were produced from the spirits and flesh." Okay, we've gone over that. Giants were produced from spirits and flesh, the angels and human women, okay? "They shall be called evil spirits on the earth." Evil spirits on the earth, "and shall live on the earth. Evil spirits have come out from their bodies because they are born from men and from the holy watchers. Their beginning is of primal origin, and they shall be evil spirits on the earth. And evil spirits shall they be called, spirits of the evil ones. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born on the earth shall be their dwelling." And that was the other part I was going to underline. Anyway, "And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, war." I put destroy in there twice. Is that really? I guess that's in the text twice. "And cause trouble on earth." Maybe I duplicated that because I did have to type this out. I didn't copy and paste, but I put destroy twice. Anyway, "and cause trouble on the earth. They take no food, but do not hunger or thirst. They cause offenses." Probably should be they cause offenses. "They cause offenses." Sorry, I am a perfectionist about this. "They cause offenses, but are not observed. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and women, because they have proceeded from them in the days of the slaughter and destruction." And that is Enoch 15, verses 8 through 12. Okay? That gives you a lot of insight on this. I mean, it's not just dancing around hinting towards something. It's very descriptive, guys. And in the next chapter of Enoch, chapter 16, it says, "And at the death of the giants, spirits will go out and shall destroy without incurring judgment. Coming from their bodies, their flesh shall be destroyed until the day of the consummation. The great judgment is which the age shall be consummated over the watchers and the godless, and shall be wholly consummated. Okay? So, yeah, it's interesting. Could be we see a glimpse of this event through Christ's interaction with Legion. You guys remember that? Legion. The we are many, the demons, the notorious band of demons who tormented the two men that they were abiding in the tombs in the land of Gergesenes, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyway, Christ approached the demons, or the men, and they shouted at him. They said, "What do you want with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" Now that's interesting, because what the appointed time, what are they talking about? Well, like we just read here, the judgment that was coming, the day of the consummation. and these demons are asking Jesus, Yeshua, have you come here to torture us before the appointed time? And that is in Matthew 8:29. I wish I would have added that up here, just so you guys could see that. If you want to reference it, it's Matthew 8:29. Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time? If you were to ask the average Bible believer if they've ever noticed this phrase or wondered what it refers to, before the appointed time, most likely most people have overlooked this statement, or that detail in that statement, or what it refers to, when it refers to. Most people just have never given it any thought. But if we understand the backstory behind that, it brings light. It is a backlight to the book of Matthew, to that phrase. But yeah, even the demons, they're aware of their future demise. All right. Their judgment is a recurrent theme that's scattered throughout Scripture and the ancient text. Enoch, he gives a lot of, Enoch basically tells the story. And all right, we're coming to an end here. This is the Rephaim, the dead things, the spirits. Okay. Yeah, we are reading about a separate class of beings, meaning the Watchers are categorized separately from demons, okay? The Watchers are the angels. The demons are the offspring of the Watchers, but departed from their bodies, okay? A lot of people confuse the two. I was confused at first, like, wait a minute. So demons are the angels? No, demons, and that's what people think. Most people most commonly think demons are angels, fallen angels, and they're not. Demons are the departed spirits of their offspring with humans, okay? So demons are deceased Nephilim, basically. They are evil spirits, and Enoch chapter 15 talks about that. That's what we just read. Evil spirits have come out from their bodies because they are born from men and from the holy watchers, okay? Demons are disembodied, and I believe it uses that, coming out from their bodies, disembodied Nephilim and Rephaim, okay? So that's what I'm going to leave you with on this episode. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, if you want to know more about this stuff, I would get these two books if I were you. Babylon Rising and The First Shall Be Last, and Archon Invasion, The Rise, Fall, and Return of the Nephilim. It's almost like this one should have been before this one, I think. I know this is book 1, but book 2 almost seems like it should have been written first. And I can't remember why I thought that. Maybe because this focuses more on Nephilim origins, and then this goes into modern day government and stuff like that. Anyway, there it is. I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you loved it, share it with somebody. Okay, so and if you aren't subscribed, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.